Have you ever wondered if you existed before you were born? I'm not talking about reincarnation or mystical concepts, but about something much deeper and scientifically verifiable that will turn your conception of existence inside out. Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of today's most influential astrophysicists, has an explanation that completely defies our intuition about when we actually begin to exist. The answer is written in every atom of your body, in every molecule that makes up your bones, your blood, your thoughts. And when you understand this, you will never look at yourself the same way again. The universe holds secrets about you that predate planet Earth itself, predate the sun, predate anything you consider the beginning. Brace yourself, because what you are about to discover will connect your personal existence with the death of giant stars that lived billions of years before you were born. And if you are one of those who love to have your mind expanded by scientific revelations that show how extraordinary our connection with the cosmos is, subscribe to the channel now, because this journey of discovery is just beginning, and I have many more fascinating mysteries of the universe to share with you. Think for a moment about the most fundamental question we can ask about ourselves. When did you begin to exist? Your first reaction would probably be to say that it was at the moment of conception, when a sperm met an egg inside your mother's uterus. Or perhaps you think it was at the moment of birth, when you emerged into this world and took your first breath. Some might argue philosophically that you only began to exist when you developed consciousness, perhaps a few months or years old. But what if I told you that all of these answers, although valid from certain perspectives, completely ignore a much deeper truth about your existence? What if the atoms that make up every cell in your body, every thought in your brain, every beat of your heart existed long before the Earth was formed? This isn't poetry. It's pure, hard physics. It's verifiable astronomy. It's fundamental chemistry. We're talking about a reality so extraordinary that when scientists discovered it, they had to completely rewrite our understanding of what it means to exist. You see, when we think about our existence, we tend to see our body as something that was created from scratch, as if we were a completely new construction made from fresh, newly manufactured materials. But this view is deeply mistaken. There is nothing new about you, absolutely nothing. Every carbon atom that forms the structure of your proteins, every iron atom in your blood that carries oxygen to your cells, every calcium atom that gives rigidity to your bones, every nitrogen atom in your DNA that carries your genetic instructions. All these atoms existed long before you, long before your parents, long before humanity emerged. They are older than any civilization, older than the dinosaurs, older than the primordial ocean, where life began 3,800,000,000 years ago. These atoms are, literally, cosmic survivors of cataclysmic events that took place in regions of space billions of light years away. To understand how Neil deGrasse Tyson came to this revolutionary conclusion, we must first understand what you really are in chemical and physical terms. If we could completely disassemble you, atom by atom, and separate each chemical element that makes up your body, we would discover a fascinating composition. Approximately 65% of your body is oxygen, 18% is carbon, 10% is hydrogen, 3% is nitrogen, 1.5% is calcium, 1% is phosphorus, and the remaining 1.5% is a mixture of other elements such as potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, magnesium, and trace elements such as iron, zinc, copper, iodine, selenium, and others. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Where did all these atoms come from? I'm not asking where the food your mother ate during pregnancy or the milk you drank as a child came from. I'm asking where these specific atoms originally came from before they were part of any living thing on Earth. The answer will surprise you. Let's start with the simplest element, hydrogen. The hydrogen atoms in your body were created approximately 13,800,000,000 years ago, in the first few minutes after the Big Bang. When the universe was just 3 minutes old, the temperature had dropped enough that protons and neutrons could combine to form the first atomic nuclei. This process, called primordial nucleosynthesis, created mostly hydrogen and helium, with tiny traces of lithium, uncle, and beryllium. So when you drink a glass of water, you are literally ingesting hydrogen atoms that are as old as the observable universe itself. These atoms witness the birth of everything that exists. But here's the problem. If primordial nucleosynthesis only created the lightest elements, where did all the other heavy atoms in your body come from? The carbon that forms your organic structure, the oxygen you breathe, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood. These elements did not exist in the early universe. For the first 400 million years after the Big Bang, the universe was just a vast cloud of hydrogen and helium spread across space. No stars, no planets, no life, none of the complex elements needed to form something as extraordinary as you. So how did these heavy elements come to be? The answer lies in the stars, and this is where Neil deGrasse Tyson's explanation becomes truly poetic. The first stars to form in the universe, known as population 3 stars, were massive giants made only of hydrogen and helium. When these stars began to shine, something magical happened in their cores. The extreme pressure and temperature at the center of a star are so intense that they force hydrogen atoms to fuse, creating helium and releasing a colossal amount of energy in the process. This is the process of nuclear fusion that makes all stars shine, including our Sun. But in sufficiently massive stars, something even more extraordinary happens. When the hydrogen in the core runs out, the star begins to fuse helium into carbon and oxygen. When helium runs out, carbon and oxygen fuse to create even heavier elements like neon, magnesium, and silicon. And the process continues, layer after layer, creating progressively heavier elements. Imagine a star as a cosmic factory of chemical elements, with nuclear furnaces operating at temperatures of millions of degrees, transforming light elements into heavy elements through real and verifiable cosmic alchemy. Each layer of the star is cooking a different element, in a sequence that exactly follows the periodic table. The outer core is fusing silicon into iron. The layer above is fusing oxygen into silicon. Above that, magnesium into oxygen, and so on. It is a veritable cosmic onion of chemical elements, each one being forged in the hellish conditions of the stellar interior. But there is a limit to this process, and that limit is iron. Iron atoms have the most stable nuclei of all elements. Smelting iron into heavier elements does not release energy, but it does consume energy. So when the core of a massive star turns to iron, nuclear fusion stops completely and suddenly. Without the radiation pressure produced by fusion to support the star against its own gravity, the core collapses catastrophically in a fraction of a second. And then, one of the most violent events in the universe happens: a supernova. During a supernova explosion, the star releases more energy in a few seconds than our Sun will produce during its entire life of 10 billion years. The temperatures and pressures during this explosion are so extreme that they ultimately allow the creation of all elements heavier than iron: cobalt, nickel, copper, zinc, and all the other elements up to uranium and beyond. These elements are forged in the final seconds of the star's life, and then scattered throughout space as the explosion hurls the star's outer layers at speeds reaching 10% of the speed of light. So when Neil deGrasse Tyson says you're made of stardust, he's not being metaphorical or poetic. He is being absolutely literal and scientifically accurate. The calcium in your bones was created in a massive star that existed billions of years before the Sun was born. The iron in your blood was forged in a supernova explosion. The carbon in its molecular structure was cooked in the core of a red giant star. These atoms traveled through space for millions or billions of years, were incorporated into the cloud of gas and dust that eventually collapsed to form our solar system 4,600 million years ago, became part of the early Earth, circulated through oceans and atmospheres, were incorporated into living organisms, and recycled countless times through the biosphere, until finally they were incorporated into the food your mother ate during pregnancy and became part of you. So answer honestly, did you exist before you were born? From a very real and scientific perspective, yes, the atoms that make you existed. They were waiting, moving around the planet, part of other life forms, dissolved in the oceans, floating in the atmosphere. And this wonderful discovery impacted scientists around the world because it reveals a deep connection between all living beings and the cosmos as a whole. So tell me in the comments where you are watching right now, your city or country, because it is absolutely fascinating to think that regardless of where we are all made of this same ancient stardust. We all share this incredible cosmic ancestry. But the story gets even deeper when we consider the philosophical and existential implications of this scientific discovery. If the atoms that make up you existed before you were born and will continue to exist after you die, what does that say about the nature of your existence? Are you just a temporary arrangement of these atoms? A specific configuration of stellar matter that exists for a few decades before falling apart again? In a sense, yes. But what an extraordinary configuration! Think about this for a moment. The universe is 13,800,000,000 years old. During all this time, trillions and trillions of different atomic arrangements have existed. Rocks, gases, interstellar dust, other stars, planets, moons, asteroids. But only an infinitesimal fraction of these arrangements achieved something truly remarkable. They developed consciousness. He developed the ability to look back and contemplate his own origins. The atoms that make up your brain are the first atoms in the universe capable of studying themselves, of discovering where they came from, of understanding that they were forged in dying stars billions of years ago. As Neil deGrasse Tyson often observes, we are the universe's way of knowing itself. For billions of years, these atoms existed without consciousness, without purpose, simply following the laws of physics as they circulated through the cosmos. But now, organized into the extraordinarily complex form that is a human being, they have achieved something unprecedented: the ability to reflect on their own cosmic history. You're not just made of stardust. You are stardust that woke up and are now trying to understand where it came from. And this realization has profound implications for how we think about death and existence. When you die, the atoms that make up your body do not disappear. They simply rearrange themselves. The carbon returns to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Nitrogen returns to the soil. The calcium in your bones eventually dissolves and is recycled by the biosphere. Within a few generations, the atoms that once made you will be scattered around the world, part of trees, animals, oceans, other people. On a time scale of millions of years, some of these atoms may even leave Earth again, carried by solar winds or asteroid collisions, returning to space from where they originally came. And in billions of years, when the sun expands into a red giant and eventually ejects its outer layers into a planetary nebula, the atoms that once were you will be hurled back into interstellar space, ready to be incorporated into new stars, new planets, perhaps new forms of life in solar systems that don't even exist yet. So in what sense do you actually begin or finish existing? Modern science forces us to reconsider these fundamental questions. From an atomic point of view, you are a continuation of a process that began billions of years ago and will continue for billions of years into the future. You are a temporary wave in a cosmic ocean of recycled matter. What a magnificent wave! During the brief period that these atoms are organized into the shape of you, they experience something unique in the universe: subjectivity, consciousness, love, curiosity, wonder. And this brings us to one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's most profound observations on this subject. He frequently mentions that, given the number of atoms in the human body, approximately 7 octillions, or 7 followed by 27 zeros, and given how long these atoms have circulated through Earth's biosphere, there is a non-zero mathematical probability that some of the atoms in your body were once part of famous people in history. You probably have atoms that were once part of Cleopatra, of Leonardo da Vinci, of Isaac Newton, of your own distant ancestors. Statistically, you definitely have atoms that were once part of dinosaurs, of the first single-celled life forms, of meteorites that fell on the early Earth. Every breath you take contains atoms that have circulated through the lungs of virtually every human being who has ever lived. This is not mysticism or magical thinking. It's simple statistics combined with understanding how completely atoms are recycled through Earth's atmosphere and biosphere over thousands and millions of years. Think about the magnitude of this. You are literally made of the same atoms that formed the greatest geniuses, the greatest artists, greatest explorers in human history. You share atoms with people who lived 10,000 years ago and drew on cave walls. You share atoms with the first bacteria that developed photosynthesis and transformed Earth's atmosphere 2.5 billion years ago. In a very real perspective, you are a continuation of all life that has ever existed on this planet. You are the most recent link in an unbroken chain of existence that stretches from the first self-replicating molecules that emerged in the primordial oceans to the present moment. And here's something even more extraordinary to contemplate. If our understanding of physics is correct, and if the universe continues to expand indefinitely as the evidence suggests, then the atoms that make you up will eventually become part of something scientists call the degenerate age of the cosmos, about 100 trillion years from now. At that distant time in the future, all the stars will have died, all nuclear fusion will have ceased, and the universe will be a cold, dark, empty place. But atoms will still exist. They will be floating in the void between dead galaxies, extremely separated from each other, but still existing, still obeying the same laws of physics that they have always obeyed. So, from a sufficiently broad temporal perspective, the existence of its atoms essentially spans the entire history of the universe, from the Big Bang to the end of the stellar era and beyond. You are a temporary phenomenon, but you are composed of eternal substance. And if that's not a reason to marvel, I don't know what is. Neil deGrasse Tyson often uses this perspective to argue that we should feel a deep connection not just with other human beings, but with all life on Earth, and indeed with the entire cosmos. We are not separate from nature, observing from the outside. We are an integral part of it. We are no different from the universe, looking at it as foreigners. We are the universe looking at itself. Every atom of oxygen you breathe has passed through the lungs of countless other organisms before reaching you. Every molecule of water you drink has circulated through oceans, rivers, clouds, and other living things for billions of years. The distinction between you and the environment is ultimately arbitrary and temporary. And if you're finding these revelations as fascinating as I do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because we have an incredible journey ahead of us exploring the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. And you definitely won't want to miss what's coming. But let's go back to the original question. Did you already exist before you were born? Now we can respond with more nuance. From a purely material and atomic perspective, definitely yes. The atoms that make up you existed, although they were not organized into the specific configuration that is you. They were dispersed across the planet, forming part of other structures, other organisms, other forms of matter. Some were in the atmosphere as gases, others were dissolved in the oceans, some were part of plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, but they all already existed, circulating around Earth's biosphere, waiting for the moment when they would be brought together into the extraordinarily unlikely configuration that is a conscious human being. Think about the statistical improbability of your existence. For you to exist, not only did your parents need to know each other, but also your grandparents, great-grandparents, and so on in every generation until the dawn of humanity. If a single ancestor of yours over the last 200,000 years had made a different decision about who to reproduce with, you wouldn't exist. But let's go further. For you to exist, life needed to appear on Earth approximately 3,800,000,000 years ago. For this to happen, the Earth needed to form in the habitable zone around the Sun. For this to happen, the Sun needed to form with the right size and composition. For this to happen, a molecular cloud of gas and dust needed to collapse in a specific region of the galaxy, 4,600,000,000 years ago. And for this cloud to contain the heavy elements needed to form rocky planets and life, it needed to be enriched by the remains of previous generations of stars that lived and died. Each supernova that spread heavy elements across interstellar space was a necessary prerequisite for its existence. Every massive star that ended its life in a cataclysmic explosion contributed the atoms that would eventually form you. On a cosmic scale, its existence is the result of billions of years of astrophysical processes, stellar evolution, planetary formation, chemical evolution, the emergence of life and biological evolution. You are the accumulated product of this entire complex and unlikely process. And here's a fascinating question for you, Templar. If the atoms that make up you are as old as the universe, do they remember all the places they've been? Of course not in the conscious sense of memory, but in a very real physical sense. Yes, the specific isotopes of each element carry information about where and how they were created. Scientists can analyze the proportions of different isotopes in rocks, meteorites, and even their own bodies to trace their cosmic history. For example, oxygen has 3 stable isotopes: oxygen-16, oxygen-17, and oxygen-18, each with a different number of neutrons in the nucleus. The relative proportions of these isotopes can tell us whether oxygen was created in a certain generation of stars versus another, whether it underwent certain chemical processes, whether it was part of water molecules that froze and melted multiple times. Each atom is like a microscopic history book, carrying physical records of its journey through the cosmos. And when scientists analyze the isotopic composition of different materials in the solar system, they discover something fascinating. Not all material comes from the same source. The molecular cloud that collapsed to form the solar system was a mixture of material from multiple generations of stars, some that died relatively close by and recently in cosmic terms, others that died much earlier and farther away. Some of the atoms in your body traveled hundreds of light years through interstellar space before being captured by the protosolar cloud. Others came from stars that exploded just a few tens of millions of years before the sun rose, relatively close by in galactic terms. So you're not just made of singular stardust. You are made of dust from multiple different stars, each with its own story, each contributing its own mix of elements to the complex recipe that eventually became you. And this brings us to one of the most profound realizations of modern astronomy. We are all cosmic relatives, not just humans among themselves, but humans, animals, plants, bacteria, rocks, oceans, atmosphere. Everything in the solar system is made from the same batch of recycled star material. There is no fundamental difference between the matter that makes you and the matter that makes a mountain or an ocean or the atmosphere of Jupiter. They're all the same atoms, just organized differently. But let me take this one step further. Neil deGrasse Tyson often points out that the Earth is not a closed system. We constantly exchange material with space. Approximately 100 tons of space material falls to Earth every day, mainly in the form of microscopic dust and small meteoroids. At the same time, Earth loses material to space, mainly hydrogen and helium, that escape from the upper atmosphere. This means that we literally exchange atoms with the cosmos continually. Some of the atoms you incorporated into your last meal may have arrived on Earth recently as part of a microscopic meteorite, and some of the atoms you're exhaling now may eventually escape the atmosphere and head back into space. So the border between you and the cosmos is even more permeable than we could imagine. You are not just made of ancient cosmic stuff. You are actively exchanging material with the cosmos all the time. And here's something to really stretch your mind. If we travel far enough into the future, when the sun becomes a red giant in approximately 5 billion years, it will engulf the inner planets, including probably Earth. At that point, every atom that was ever a part of you will be vaporized and incorporated into the outer layers of the dying sun. And when the sun eventually ejects these layers as a planetary nebula, these atoms will be dispersed throughout interstellar space once again. They will travel across the galaxy, perhaps for millions of years, until eventually they are captured by another collapsing molecular cloud, forming a new star and new planets. And if life emerges on these new planets, the atoms that were once you could become part of alien life forms as different from us as we can imagine. So, on a truly cosmic timescale, the atoms that make up you not only existed before you were born. They will continue to exist and be part of new structures, new worlds, potentially new forms of life, for billions and trillions of years into the future. You are just one chapter in the epic biography of these atoms, a biography that began with the Big Bang and will continue until the end of time. And this brings us to a deep philosophical question that Neil deGrasse Tyson loves to explore. What does this mean for concepts like individuality and identity? If you are made of the same atoms that have circulated through countless other forms before you, and which will continue to circulate through countless other forms after you, in what sense are you really a separate individual? The answer modern science offers is nuanced and fascinating. Physically, you are definitely a temporary arrangement of shared atoms. Atoms do not belong to you. You don't own them. You simply lend them out for a few decades before returning them to the cosmic cycle. But computerically and biologically, you are absolutely unique. The specific configuration of atoms that make you up, the exact sequence of DNA in your cells, the neural patterns in your brain, the memories you have accumulated, the subjective consciousness that emerges from all this complexity. This is unique. It never existed before, and it will never exist again. When you die and the atoms that make up you disperse, the information that defined you as an individual is lost forever. The atoms remain, but the pattern, the specific configuration, the particular order in which they were arranged, it disappears. And here's the beautiful paradox. You are simultaneously temporary and eternal, unique and universal, separate and connected. As an arrangement of information, you are ephemeral and unique. As a collection of matter, you are eternal and shared with the entire cosmos, and both perspectives are equally true and important. This duality is at the heart of how modern science invites us to think about existence. And if your mind is already exploding with these ideas, tell me in the comments which of these perspectives resonates most with you. Do you feel more temporary or more eternal, more separated or more connected to the universe? I'd love to know what you're thinking about all of this. Now, let's explore an even deeper implication of this cosmic reality. If the atoms that make up you have existed for billions of years, they have witnessed the history of the universe in a way that transcends conscious experience. Think about it. The carbon atoms in your body were created in the core of a massive star billions of years ago. They experienced the unbelievable temperatures and pressures of the stellar interior. They survived the violent explosion of a supernova. They traveled through the icy void of interstellar space, perhaps for millions of years, on a solitary journey among the stars. Eventually, they were captured by the gravity of the molecular cloud that would form our solar system. They circulated in the protoplanetary disk, collided with other dust grains, aggregated into planetesimals, and were incorporated into the early Earth. They survived the late heavy bombardment, when asteroids and comets struck the young Earth with devastating frequency. They circulated through the primordial oceans, were incorporated into the first complex organic molecules, were perhaps part of the first self-replicating life forms 3,800,000,000 years ago. Over eons, they circulated through the developing biosphere, forming part of countless different organisms. Bacteria, algae, plants, animals. They survived the 5 great mass extinctions. They were part of dinosaurs for 200 million years. They survived the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. They circulated through the rising mammals. Eventually, they were part of the first primates, the first hominids, the first Homo sapiens 300,000 years ago. They saw the emergence of agriculture 10,000 years ago, the development of civilization, all of recorded human history. And now, at this particular moment, they are arranged in the extraordinarily unlikely configuration that allows you to read these words and contemplate your own cosmic story. What an epic journey! What an unbelievable story! And all of this is recorded, not in conscious memory, but in the physical properties of the atoms themselves. And here's an additional revelation that will expand your perspective even further. Not only do individual atoms have this ancient history, but the very laws of physics that govern how these atoms behave are equally ancient. The fundamental forces that hold atomic nuclei together, that allow electrons to orbit nuclei, that govern how atoms bond into molecules. All these rules were established in the first moments after the Big Bang. The strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, electromagnetism, gravity. These four fundamental forces defined all subsequent evolution of the universe. So when the atoms in your body interact following these laws, they are essentially executing a program that was written 13,800,000,000 years ago. You are the product of eternal physical laws acting on primordial matter across cosmic timescales. And this brings us to one of the most profound questions that Neil deGrasse Tyson often contemplates. The universe. How do we produce conscious life? Did the laws of physics and the initial configuration of the universe make it inevitable that eventually, somewhere, atoms would organize themselves in a way complex enough to develop consciousness and contemplate their own origins? Or are we a fortuitous cosmic accident, an unlikely statistical deviation in a universe that could easily have remained barren forever? The honest answer is that we don't know. We have yet to discover life anywhere in the universe other than Earth. We don't know how common or rare life is on a cosmic scale. But what we do know is this: the ingredients for life are universal. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. These elements are not rare or special. They are produced in abundance by stars throughout the universe. Complex organic chemistry is not unique to Earth. We find organic molecules in interstellar clouds, in meteorites, and on other planets and moons in our own solar system. The laws of physics are the same throughout the observable universe. So if life arose here, there is no reason to think that it could not arise in other places where similar conditions exist. And this further expands the perspective on its existence. You are not just a collection of ancient atoms recycled from dead stars. You are a manifestation of chemical and biological processes that may be occurring on countless worlds throughout the galaxy and the wider universe. Life can be what the universe makes, when the conditions are right. And if this is true, then its existence is not just an isolated accident on an insignificant planet orbiting an ordinary star. You are part of a larger cosmic phenomenon, an expression of the universe's inherent tendency to increase complexity and organization in certain circumstances. Think about it. The universe began with extreme simplicity. Right after the Big Bang, there was just a uniform energy field, no structure, no complexity. But the small quantum fluctuations in this initial field, amplified by cosmic inflation, created slightly denser and less dense regions. Gravity amplified these differences, causing dense regions to collapse into stars and galaxies. Stars created heavy elements through nuclear fusion. Supernovae spread these elements throughout space. Enriched molecular clouds collapsed into new star systems with planets. On some of these planets, conditions permitted complex organic chemistry. Eventually, molecules developed the ability to self-replicate. Natural selection drove the evolution of increasing complexity. Multicellularity emerged. Nervous systems developed. Complex brains evolved. And finally, consciousness emerged. This entire process, from the Big Bang to you reading these words, is a story of increasing complexity emerging from initial simplicity through the action of physical laws. And you are at the current top of this pyramid of increasing complexity. Your brain, with its 86 billion neurons and 100 trillion synaptic connections, is literally the most complex structure we know of in the universe, capable of abstract thinking, self-awareness, creativity, imagination, empathy, future planning, philosophical contemplation. Abilities that emerged from blind evolutionary processes operating over billions of years, but which now transcend these processes and allow you to question your own origins and meaning. And here comes one of Neil deGrasse Tyson's favorite reflections on this subject. The beautiful irony that the atoms in your brain are arranged in such a way that they allow you to understand how those same atoms were created. The carbon in your cerebral cortex is processing information about how carbon is forged into stars. The oxygen in your blood is carrying energy, which allows you to think about how oxygen is created in nuclear fusion. It is an extraordinary loop of cosmic self-reference. The universe is not only capable of knowing itself through you, he is actively doing that right now. Every thought you have about your cosmic origins is the universe reflecting on its own history through the complex structure that is your conscious brain. And this gives a deep dignity and meaning to your existence, even while recognizing its temporary nature. Yes, you will die eventually. The atoms that form you will disperse and be recycled. The specific arrangement that is you will disappear. But for the brief period that you exist, you are a window through which the cosmos knows itself. You are the eyes through which the universe observes stars. You are the consciousness through which billions of years of cosmic evolution have become aware of themselves. This is an extraordinary privilege and responsibility. And now that you understand this cosmic perspective on your existence, let me ask a question. What are you going to do with the limited time you have in this particular Stardust setup? How will you use your consciousness, this remarkable ability that has emerged from billions of years of cosmic evolution? Neil deGrasse Tyson argues that understanding our cosmic nature should inspire us to value each moment, to seek knowledge, to explore and marvel at the universe, to treat each other with compassion, and to recognize our shared ancestry. And if you agree with this perspective and want to continue exploring these profound ideas about our connection with the cosmos, comment below which aspect of this cosmic story fascinates you the most. And don't forget to share this video with someone you think would also have their mind blown by these scientific revelations. Let me now connect all of this back to the original question in a way that will encapsulate this entire intellectual journey we have taken together. When we ask, did you exist before you were born? The answer depends crucially on how we define you. By you, we mean the specific arrangement of atoms, the particular configuration of matter, the biological information encoded in DNA, the specific neural structure of the brain, the patterns of memory and thought that define your personal identity. So, no, you definitely did not exist before your conception. You are a unique emergence from that specific moment when a specific sperm fertilized a specific egg, beginning a sequence of development that led to the conscious individual you are now. This particular configuration has never existed before and will never exist again. But if by you we mean the fundamental matter that makes up your body, the atoms that make up each molecule, each cell, each organ, so yes, you definitely existed before you were born, and not just for a few years or decades, but for billions of years. These atoms are older than the Earth, older than the Sun, older than our galaxy took its current form. They were created in stars that lived and died long before the solar system existed. They traveled the cosmos, were incorporated into countless other forms, circulated through the Earth's biosphere for billions of years, temporarily forming part of countless organisms before finally coming together in the extraordinary configuration that is you. And both perspectives are important and true. You are simultaneously totally unique and totally recycled. As information, as pattern, as consciousness, you are new and original. As substance, as matter, as atoms, you are ancient and shared. And recognizing this duality gives us a richer perspective on existence. We do not need to choose between seeing ourselves as unique individuals or as parts of the cosmos. We are both at the same time. Neil deGrasse Tyson uses this perspective to argue for a vision of cosmic humility, combined with existential wonder. Humility, because we recognize that we are not separate or superior to the rest of the cosmos. We are literally made of the same material as stars, planets, nebulae. There is nothing special about the atoms that make us up versus the atoms in a rock or a cloud of interstellar gas. But wonder because, despite this material ordinariness, we achieved something extraordinary. These common atoms, when organized into the specific configuration that is a human being, develop consciousness, thought, creativity, love, curiosity. The most ordinary matter in the universe, through emergent complexity, has produced something truly special, the ability to contemplate its own origins and meaning. And this gives us a profound reason to value life, not in spite of its temporary and material nature, but because of it. Precisely because we are temporary arrangements of stardust, because this particular configuration has never existed before and will never exist again, because we only have a few decades in this form before the atoms disperse again. For all these reasons, every moment is precious, every experience is unique, every opportunity to learn, grow, connect with others, explore the universe. All of this has immense value. And here's a final thought I hope you take away with you after watching this video. You are not an alien in this universe. You didn't get here from somewhere else. You are not temporarily visiting a strange cosmos. You are literally made of the universe. You are a natural and inevitable expression of the physical laws operating on matter over billions of years. You belong here as completely as any star, planet, or galaxy. And more than that, you are perhaps the most extraordinary expression of the universe we know, a configuration of matter that has achieved self-awareness and can now reflect on the deepest questions of existence hence. So yes, you existed before you were born, in the form of ancient atoms circulating throughout the cosmos and biosphere, and you will continue to exist after you die, in the form of these same atoms dispersing and being incorporated into new structures, new forms, potentially new worlds, and new forms of life in the distant future. And if this scientific and philosophical journey has expanded your mind and changed your perspective on existence as much as I hope it has, then please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications because we have many more fascinating explorations of the mysteries of the cosmos planned, and you will definitely want to be part of this community of cosmically curious people as we continue to unlock the deepest secrets of the universe together. The story of your atoms is the story of the universe in miniature. And every time you look up at the stars, remember, you are not looking at something distant and separate from you. You are looking at your cosmic ancestors, at the nuclear furnaces that forged the elements that would eventually become you. And this realization completely transforms what it means to be alive and conscious in this extraordinary cosmos.